Hello everyone. Welcome to Dark Compass channel. And before I take you into tonight's story, I want you to do one simple thing. Subscribe, like this video, and share it, because what you're about to hear might be the last story you hear before you fall asleep. Now, tell me, where are you now? What time is it? Are you in bed? Lights out? Headphones in? Good, because this house is waiting for you too. The story begins. I went to that house not out of curiosity, nor out of interest. I just wanted to quiet. I needed a place to write a book about paranormal phenomena, and I thought an old house on a deserted hilltop would be ideal. No neighbors, no cars, no noise. But I was wrong from the moment I set foot here. It was already dark when I turned off the car in front of the gate. The road leading up to the house was just a patch of dry, uneven dirt, overgrown with weeds. The wind howled, kicking up dust, making me feel a chill down my spine as I opened the car door. The house loomed larger than I had imagined. The paint was faded and patchy, and many of the windows were covered with rotten wood. On the porch, the railings were leaning as if they were about to break. I shuddered, but quickly dismissed it. It's just an old house, just needs a little renovation. The lock creaked as I inserted the key. The door opened easily, as if it had been waiting for me. The air inside was thick, the smell of mold permeating the air. The light that filtered through the dusty windows was not enough to dispel the darkness. The wooden floorboards groaned under my feet, as if complaining, as if warning. I dropped my bag by the stairs and looked around. A small living room, a narrow dining room with a small rusty brass chandelier. I thought, I'll just settle in for tonight. I'll start work tomorrow. I sat in the living room, arranging my books, laptop, and documents. The lights flickered a few times, but I ignored them. Then, I heard it. One whisper. At first it was so small, I thought it was just the wind coming through the crack in the door. But the more I heard it, the clearer it became. It wasn't coming from outside, but from the wall behind me. The sound was like breathing close to my ear, ragged and wet. I strained, trying to catch a word, but couldn't. It was just a strange, vague series of sounds, but enough to make my skin crawl. I gritted my teeth and ignored it. The first night, don't let your imagination scare you. The second floor had a long hallway with many rooms. Most were empty, covered in dust. Only the room at the end of the hallway, with a large window overlooking the barren hills, made me feel the most secure. I set up my desk there, my laptop right next to the window. That night, when I lay down, whisper back. But this time, it moved. First the wall, then the ceiling, then right next to the door. Sometimes I swear it was right next to the bed. Each whisper was like a cold needle stabbing into my heart. Sometimes I heard broken syllables, like some dead language. I pulled the blanket over my head, my heart pounding. Outside, it was drizzling. Thunder and lightning flashed, casting distorted shadows on the walls. I stared into the darkness, waiting, but saw nothing. When I was exhausted, I fell asleep. The next morning, I made coffee and sat by the window watching the light rain. I said to myself, it's all in my head. The anxiety of going to a new place. I decided to explore the house more closely. Every room was dusty. Some closets were empty. There were scraps of paper in drawers, some rusty objects. But when I got to a room on the ground floor, I noticed something unusual. A large wooden cabinet was placed against the wall. Behind it, there was a small gap. I tried pushing it and was surprised that it slid aside quite easily. Behind is one narrow path, just wide enough for a person to pass through, about 2 meters high. The walls were not made of wood, but of rough, cold stone. The walls were dotted with strange symbols, circles, diagonals, and squiggles that looked as if they had been carved long ago. A musty air wafted out, heavy and stench-like like a corpse. I shined my flashlight and stepped in. Each step echoed, lingering longer than usual, as if I were stepping into an endless void. Then, the whispering returned, this time right behind me. I turned around. There was only darkness, no one. The narrow path led to a fork. One branch turned right, the other sloped down. I stood still for a few seconds, then decided to go down. Because my intuition told me that was the place. The real secret of the house. The air was getting thicker. My ears felt as if they were being pressed together, as if I were at a great height. The cliffs were covered with black moss. Occasionally, there were scratches like deep fingernails. At the end of the corridor, a low room opened up, its walls covered with strange symbols. In the center of the room was a mottled stone table, on which was carved a large circle with countless characters. Around it, rusted objects were scattered, iron chains, fish hooks, broken pieces of pottery. A cold gust of air blew out, making me suffocate. And then I heard my name, whispering, lingering, echoing from all sides. No more vagueness. Clear, definite. Someone or something know who I am. I stepped back, my heart stopping. The flashlight flickered, then went out. In the complete darkness, the whisper turned into Chwar. 100 voices at once, echoing right in my head. I panicked and groped my way back. But the back hallway had disappeared. There was only thick, liquid darkness. I don't remember how I got out. When I opened my eyes, I was in the living room, sweat pouring down my back, my limbs shaking. The clock said it was almost 3 a.m. I tried to calm down, but from that night, everything changes. The whispering doesn't just happen at night, it happens during the day too. In the kitchen, in the bathroom, right behind me as I write. I can even hear it in my own heartbeat. It's not just the sound. I started to see Theblak's shadow glimpse down the hall, sit on the edge of the bed, stand by the bathroom mirror. Every time I look straight, they disappear. But in the corner of my eye, I know they're still there. I found some old books hidden in a drawer, the covers rotten. In them was written an ancient ritual using the house as Agaty opened another world. The symbols in the tunnel were part of a ritual. The person who lived here had turned the house into a living sacrifice, and whoever moves in will be called. Finally, I heard footsteps in the second floor hallway. Clear, heavy steps approaching my room. I locked the door and backed up against the wall. But the door slowly opened, even though the lock was still in place. In the crack of the door, a tall and thin figure, a blurry face, no eyes, no mouth. But when it tilted its head, the whisper echoed right in my ear. I screamed, and then everything went dark. If you are listening, then you have come in with me. For once the story is told, the house knows the listener. If you hear whispering in your room tonight, don't look for it. It will come to you. And before it comes, you want to make sure you're still here to listen. Story 2, The Never-Ending Whisper. I left that house the very next morning. Or at least, I thought I left. The car hurtled down the dirt road, the tires splashing mud everywhere. The wind blew through the windows, but through the whistling, I could still hear. Whisper, no longer behind, no longer echoing in the wall, but right there inside my head. I stepped on the gas harder, my heart pounding. But when I looked in the rearview mirror, the road behind me did not lead down to town like it usually did. It stretched on forever, with only the shadows of dead trees on either side, their black branches sticking out like bones. I was stuck. As I frantically tried to turn around, I saw someone standing by the side of the road. A woman in a long coat and a wide-brimmed hat that hid her face. I went in a row. She walked slowly, her shoes clicking on the ground. You heard it too, right? Her voice was hoarse and trembling. I was speechless. She knows. The woman who calls herself Anna, who used to live in a nearby town. She said many people disappeared after moving to the house on the hill. Families, scholars, travelers, all never returned. Only a few made it out, but not in one piece. I asked, what is a home really? Anna was silent, then gently pulled up her sleeve. Her skin was covered with identical symbol in the rock tunnel that I have ever seen. The marks are deep, some still bleeding. No one left, she whispered. We were just carried deeper into the house. I didn't believe it, but when I turned back, the road ahead led straight back to the house. The house stood there, as if nothing had happened. The main door was open, dark inside. Anna walked in without hesitation. I was forced to follow. Inside the house, everything was different. The furniture was gone. The floor was wet as if it had been flooded. The smell of blood was strong. The whispers became clearer, coming in broken sentences. Stay. Blood for freedom. Your name has been written. Anna pulled me through the living room, toward the narrow passage behind the wooden cabinet. We entered the tunnel, but this time I saw it, living. The cliff heaved as if lungs were breathing. The carvings on the wall oozed a thick black liquid, dripping to the floor. Each drop that hit the ground made the whispers grow louder, more piercing. The stone room reappeared, but now it was lit by dozens of candles that burned themselves out, even though no one had lit them. In the middle of the stone table, there was a thick notebook with a mottled leather cover. Anna opened it, trembling. It contained detailed notes of a sacrificial ritual. There must be two people, one who offers himself, one who witnesses. When the ritual is complete, the house will choose, and the gates will open. I panicked. What did you bring me here for? Anna laughed hoarsely, her eyes flashing with despair under the brim of her hat. I have heard the whisper for 10 years. It has not let me go, but if there is a replacement, I get it. I am the new sacrifice. Anna grabbed a rusty knife from the table and rushed at me. I backed away, grabbing the iron chain from the floor. We struggled, the knife cutting into my skin, blood dripping onto the circle carved in stone. Immediately, a whispering sound rang out, echoing like 1,000 voices laughing together. House awaken. The walls of the room cracked, and a series of black hands reached out, clinging and dragging our bodies. The candles flared fiercely, then went out all at once. In the darkness, I felt hundreds of eyeless, mouthless faces pressing against me. Their breath was cold, and their stench was horrible. I tried to scream, but my throat was tight. Anna collapsed, pulled into the darkness first, her screams fading as if they had never existed. I don't remember how I escaped. Maybe it was instinct. I threw the chain at the stone circle. The whole room shook violently. A crack of light flashed across the ground. I rushed into that light. And when I opened my eyes, I was in the living room again, in broad daylight. The house was silent, clean as if it had never been invaded. No more Anna, no more blood, nothing. Only my laptop was left on the table. The screen was on, showing the exact words I had just typed. If you are listening to this story, then home has found you. If you hear whispering tonight, don't try to run away. Because the house is not on that hill. It's right there in your head, and before the night falls and a whisper calls your name. I want to know you're still here to hear the next story. Story 3, The Storytellers Before Me. I swore I would never go back to that house, but there was one thing I couldn't avoid. Since the night I escaped, every time I open my laptop, the familiar line appears. If you are reading this, the home has found you. It was no longer a story I wrote, it wrote itself. Day by day, hour by hour, the keyboard clicked without my touching it. And then, one sleepless night, the screen lit up, revealing a file called Storyteller_3. I opened the file. Not lowercase letters, but voices. A hoarse voice came from the speakers, repeating, "You are not the first." I was startled. The voice said that for hundreds of years, there had always been storytellers, people chosen by the house, forced to record its horrors. Each storyteller, somehow, thought they had escaped. But in the end, they all became part of the story. I trembled. What did that mean? Was I just a link in an endless chain? In my head a whisper echoed, "Come back, come back." For 3 days I could not sleep. The whispering did not stop. I saw shadows outside the window. When I opened the door, only cold wind blew in. But the porch floor was covered with muddy footprints. I understood that, to escape, I had to go back. It was pouring rain as I drove up the hill, standing in front of the old house again. But this time, it was different. The windows were lit. A shadow passed through the curtains. Someone was inside. I pushed the door open and walked in. The scene left me speechless. The dining room was long, and on the table was a sumptuous feast. Wine, grilled meat, bread. Around the table were dozens of people, eating, drinking, and chatting animatedly. But their faces were blurry, like smoke. When I walked in, everyone turned to look. Smiles spread across their faces, revealing sharp teeth. A man in a black cloak stood up and raised his glass. "Welcome the next storyteller," my heart sank. I looked closer, some of the faces I recognized. Anna, the man I had seen in the old documents. And myself, pale-faced, sitting at the end of the table. The man in the cloak whispered in my ear, "The house lives on memory. It consumes the narrator's soul, forcing him to continue writing. No one can stop. If you refuse, you will disappear like the others." He pointed to a corner of the room. Dozens of figures huddled there, no longer indistinct, only hoarse whispers. They were the storytellers who had failed. I was spinning, not knowing what was real and what was imaginary. But an invisible hand forced me to sit down on the chair at the end of the table. In front of me was a thick notebook, the marker pen soaked in bright red blood. On the first page, the text reads, "Tell me. If not, you will be the next story." I write, but when the pen touches the ground, I no longer write for myself. I write for the listener, for you, the one who is following this story. Pen scratching on paper. The listener will soon dream of the house. The door opens, the whispering is heard. And when they open their eyes, they are at the table with us. I was devastated. The house does not just hold me, it is expanding. Every listener, every reader will be drawn into the loop. The man in the cloak raised his glass again. The whole world is a house. And each story, each word, is just another wall added. Everyone laughed at once. The laughter echoed like thunder. I collapsed onto the table, my eyes darkening. When I opened them, I was in my old room, my laptop lit up, the recording still playing. You are not the first, and you certainly will not be the last. If you're still hearing this, ask yourself, tonight, Were you really in your bedroom, or were you sitting with me in that house? Don't be alone in the curse. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel now, so I know you're still here, not swallowed by the house.